Good day, everyone, and welcome to the introductory part of the Navigating Law School online course. Although we refer to it as a course, it is not necessarily a course in the same sense as contracts or evidence law. This is essentially a seminar meant to help students resuming at the law school in January 2020 prepare adequately by providing them with information they might not ordinarily have had access to. Like I said, and like we have said in the promotional materials, this course is not a law school course, neither is it emanating from the law school. This is independent of the law school. It is educational material put together to help aspiring law school students, but it is independent from the management of the law school. I'm Chukwemeka Moye, and I'm glad to handle the narration and to have handled the content creation for this course. Before I proceed, I would like to do a brief introduction of myself. I studied law at Ambrose Ali University and graduated in 2014. I went to the law school, particularly Lagos campus, in 2014 still, and I finished at the law school in 2015. I was called to the bar in December 2015 precisely. Since then, I have founded an education consultancy in 2016. I have also had work experience in a variety of places, a faith-based organization. I also worked at the Lagos Business School, from where I proceeded to work as an adjunct at the Lagos campus of the Nigerian Law School in 2017. I've also had practice experience working with Chronicles Advisory, a firm I started with a colleague just after I left Lagos Business School. So what motivated me to put this course together? Well, in the past 2 years of teaching corporate law practice at the Lagos campus of the Nigerian Law School, and talking about the past 2 years of teaching corporate law practice, I'm really excited to put this course together because these past 2 years have been very exciting years for corporate law practice, the corporate law practice department at the Lagos campus of the Nigerian Law School. The first year I came in, I had come in with two other colleagues who were employed as adjuncts like myself. In our first year, Lagos campus, we produced the best three students in corporate law. The third best student, the position was a tie with another campus, but we had three of the top four students as the best students in corporate law, which, from what we gathered, was not something that had happened before. So it's something I'm really excited about. And just this year, they said that it was just called to buy in November the best four students in corporate law. It was very interesting because for the first time we had a tie in corporate law. The first position was the tie between two persons. Both of them were from Lagos campus, and the other positions were all from the two other top positions were from Lagos campus. The second and third position was the persons who emerged as second and third best students were from Lagos campus. So it's something that's really exciting for me. So putting this course together, for me, that was a boost. I must say that was really a boost. You might have heard a lot of things about corporate law practice, but don't worry about that. It's not as bad as it seems. But during the course of lecturing at the law school, I have had interactions with lots of students, and I mean lots of students. And one of the things I came to see was the fact that a lot of students actually stumble into law school. In all fairness, I'm not being modest when I say that for me personally, that was not my experience. I'm not being modest. It's easy for me to say, oh, I also stumbled into law school and I want to just go and tell you what to avoid. But that was not my experience. I did not stumble into law school. Interestingly, I had begun preparing for law school since 2013. I only got into law school in 2015. I began actively preparing for law school from 2013. So, and I will explain a bit more on that as we proceed in the course. I have had cause to ask several colleagues today. When I mean by, let me just throw some context into what I mean by stumble. I've had cause to ask several colleagues today, if they had the opportunity, would they study law again? And I've seen some persons stop and think and say no. Some persons will tell me yes. Some persons are unsure as to what to answer. So I realized that a lot of people in the first place stumble into law because they don't understand what the profession entails, and then they stumble into the university, and then they eventually stumble into law school. So it's not necessarily because they just stumble into law school. It's something that has already happened in the university. When I mean stumble, what do I really mean by stumble? So when a child is trying to learn to walk, they stumble a lot. They walk a bit, they fall, they shake. The ability to walk confidently is limited, right? In education, to avoid falling or failing means that you understand two things that I like to classify them as two things. Number one, you understand the content of education. Number two, you understand the context of education. And when I mean education, and I mean it specifically like the kind of education you are receiving. So if it's in secondary school, it's good to understand the context of education, the content of the education you are receiving as a secondary school student, and the content of the education, context and content. Same thing for a university student, same thing for a law school student. That's my own classification. Now, what I see is that many people get the content part and miss the context part. By content, people go to school and make a 2-1 or first class, and that is good enough. That is content to me. But getting a good grade alone is no guarantee of success in professional or entrepreneurial life. That you made it first class from the university does not mean that you necessarily start a business and succeed today. It doesn't even mean that you would set up a law firm and succeed as the head of the law firm, or start your own legal practice and have a successful legal career. Context of education means that you understand that no form of formal education is an end in itself. Every form of formal education is a means to an end, and in the real world, that end is not success in examinations, because we get a lot of people say with the fact that the success in examination is not the end to education. Don't get me wrong, I'm not one of them who say that education is not the true text of knowledge. In a context, it is the true text of knowledge, because education is beyond the exams you just write in a school setting, a formal school setting. Education is a normal part of life. It is the real test of knowledge. But a lot of things factor in beyond just examination. That's why it's not a true test of knowledge. That's why it's not that's why it's not a true test of knowledge. That's why it's not an end in itself. I'm talking about examination we write in formal settings now. A lot of things factor into those kind of things. So for example, in our typical Nigerian setting, the end of education, formal education as we would see it, would be employment. For example, employment to be able to meet your need. Now, what is the context of that education? The context of education will then be being educated enough to be prepared for employment. But in the real sense of it, education is really beyond employment, because education is supposed to prepare you to live a profitable and a fruitful life in society and many other things. So you must be able to look at whatever education you are receiving in the context for which you are receiving it. Right? For example, mere knowledge of the precarious state of the job market in Nigeria today will make a lot of students sit up in academics. For example, I believe that a lot of students flop in university because they do not have an idea of what lies outside. And I promise you, at least I've been done with that level of formal education for about 5 years now, 5 years post-call, and I can confidently talk about the job market. A lot of students will sit up. American students largely pay for their education with debt, right? They take college loans to go to school. So by the time they are leaving school, a lot of them are already debtors. But it's different in Nigeria. Government subsidizes education, our parents subsidize education, so it's easy for us to not see the essence. Imagine you're leaving school as a debtor. You're owing the government. I saw someone say recently that they were by the time they left school, they were owing $60,000 as college loans, and years after graduation, they're still owing 60,000. They've paid about 70,000 or so, but they're still owing 60,000. It was a tweet. That was it. That's how serious these things are. When Nigeria, our parents subsidize education for us, the government subsidizes education for us. So a lot of students don't understand how serious the market is. If you know how serious it is, you know that life is usually skewed, especially professional life. Entry-level stage is usually skewed against those that have good academic output, the first class, the second class upper holders, and things like that. So if people know more about that, you see a lot of pursuits and struggle to come out with at least a 2-1 in first class. I mean real struggle that makes it a do or die affair. But I know that a lot of students still make every effort and do not end up with those kinds of grades. I'm not talking of those kinds of students. I'm talking of the lazy students, the ones who just don't care. Well, so context will make you prepare better. It will also make you know that beyond getting a good grade, there are a lot of things that will also prepare you for the job market. For example, internship. Surprisingly, when we did a survey last year, which we published the report of that survey this year, we found out that 7 out of 10 law students from the respondents we surveyed, and we surveyed students from over 25 law faculties in Nigeria, and we found out that the majority of them have never done an internship. These were students 100 level to 500 level. It was that serious. So now to the real content of today's course. Every year, thousands of students resume at the Nigerian Law School for what's known as Bar Part 2. Well, for those who do not know, Bar Part 1 is for graduates of law of common law countries whose law courses have been approved by the Council of Legal Education. By completing the Bar 1 program, successful candidates can then apply for the Bar Part 2 program. Graduates of law from accredited Nigerian universities proceed straight to the Bar Part 2 program. The Bar Part 2 program typically lasts for 10 months, the highlight of which is the Bar Part 2 examinations that students write, popularly called Almighty Bar Finals. It may not be extreme to state that the Bar Finals examination is probably the most influential examination in Nigeria. The outcome of the examination is decisive for many and can bring happiness or sorrow to families all across the country. The reason being that the legal profession in Nigeria is one of the most respected professions in the country, and it's a thing of joy for many families when their loved ones qualify for admission into the profession. Also, after studying law, which is something that a lot of students are not aware of, when you study law at the university level for 5 years or 4 years, depending on how you got in, if you studied law at a Nigerian university, a student or a person must pass the Bar Finals in order to be able to practice the profession in Nigeria. Bar Finals, passing the Bar Finals, qualifying by passing the Bar Finals, one of the prerequisites to be called to practice, as to be admitted into the profession and practice as a lawyer in Nigeria. In previous years, the Nigerian Law School Bar Part 2 calendar often had an October or November start date. However, things have changed this time around, which is one of the reasons why we put this course together. As the 2019 set will now resume in January 2020. Before, students of law school used to resume in November and December, but now the students are going to resume in January 2020. What is the implication of this? Well, when students resumed law school before in November or December, they usually had Christmas break at the end of December, which typically lasts for about 2 weeks. This break affords students an opportunity to update notes, compare notes, strategize and re-strategize, all based on the about 1 month experience they would have had at the law school. By the time these students resume in January, many of them have used the break to prepare ahead for what usually will be a full stretch of lectures till the next break for externship. However, the set resuming in January 2020 does not have a Christmas break to fall back to. I guarantee you, when you resume at law school and you see the content and you see all you have to do, you are running lectures Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You're running lectures back to back. When students usually resume, it's something that is overwhelming for majority of students. So for the first 2, 3, 4 weeks, many students are thrown off balance because you're running around for your registration, and then you have to settle accommodation, and then you have to be taking lectures alongside. So there's a lot of things that throw many persons off balance. So that December break used to be a good time for students to settle down, compare notes, put things together, and move on. Because one of the things that happens in law school is that if you miss a day or 2 days of lectures, especially at the beginning, or say you resume late or anything of that sort, to get yourself back on track could be difficult because you have to prepare for the next day of lectures, and then you have to cover up for the day you miss. So the December break used to be a very good period for people to settle in and re-strategize for the January resumption, and that January resumption will lead till the time for externship. But now the set resuming in January does not have a Christmas break to fall back to, so they must go in better prepared than even their predecessors. I must say that I haven't seen the calendar for the January 2020 set, but I guarantee you that there will be no Christmas break because Christmas is already past, at least that I'm sure of. If there's going to be another break, that will be innovative, but there will be no Christmas break to fall back on. So the likelihood is very high that you're going to have resumption in January, I think January 27th, and then it will run through till externship. That's going to be like a 4, 5, probably a 3, 4, 5 months full stretch of lectures before externship. Maybe law school might decide to give a break in between. I don't know. I don't have an idea of what the calendar will be like. So that's a lot of that's a straight program. I think it's something to think about, and it's something to prepare for. It's something to think about and something to prepare for. You have to go in well equipped. Now, when you're going to a territory you have never been to before, it's important that you understand numbers. Numbers, like they say, do not lie. Numbers do not lie. And law school numbers are very interesting. At the law school, generally speaking, a student can either pass or fail. That many students are aware of. At the middle is what we know as a conditional pass, where a student has to retake one of the 5 courses taught at the law school. Now, in the past 5 years, the pass-fail rate has fluctuated. I'll give you an idea of what it looks like. In 2014, that was 2015 set, my set, 4,610 students wrote the examination. We had 8 students emerge with the first class, 369 students emerged with the second class upper, 1,054 students had the second class lower, 1,842 students pass degree, and then 170 had conditional pass, 1,167 had the field. Now, 2015, first class went up to 24, so 21,568, 22,1359 pass, 2227. Now, look at the number of students who have a pass degree. Look at how it goes up. And conditional pass 359. Those who failed 980. In 2016, first class we had 29 students. Second 211. Second class lower 1,046. Pass 2,999. That's about 3,000 students just had the pass degree. Conditional pass 334. 1,272 failed. Now, in 2017, this is interesting. You should take note of this. 161 students had a first class, 695 had a 2-1, 1,276 had a 2-2. Then 2,501 had a pass. 218 had a conditional pass. 965 failed. 30 were absent. 2018, that's the set that just got. I've had people just get called to the bar. 147 passed. Sorry, I made the first class. 741 had the second class upper. 2,246 had a second class lower. 1,291 had a pass. 319 had a conditional pass. 897 failed. 47 absent. 10 withheld. Now you notice something. While there's been an increase in number of students with a pass degree, you notice that usually the majority of students hover around the second class upper, and before, in fact, the pass, and now the second class lower. Sorry, the second class lower. The majority of the students hover around the second class lower. Before it was a pass, but this year they hovered around the second class lower degree. That is very instructive. And it's something worth looking at. If I'm going into a place and I find out that, because we did a survey and we found out that, of course, many students want to make a first class and a few want to make a 2-1. But when you notice that the majority of those who want to go in wanting to make a first class, and the majority don't make a first class, in fact, barely, depending on the ratio over time, you have at best maybe 1 in 50 students make a first class at this rate, or depending on the ratio, how it has fluctuated over time. Now, if it's that serious, you want to know why is it that people go in with the intention to make a first class, the intention to make a 2-1, and the majority of them do not make such grades. Why? You want to find out. This year, just 741 people made a 2-1, and that's something quite interesting. Just 741 out of 5,689 persons. It's very interesting. So you ask yourself, what is the importance or the implication of the grading system? Well, the issue of the importance is subject to some debate, but as for the implication, it has 2 implications. 1 is confidence, 2 is jobs. The law school period is quite a stressful period. At school board, we understand that the stress is not necessarily because the law school set out to make the education experience stressful. I can guarantee you that. Rather, it's because many students come in unprepared for the demands. If you know better about where you are going to, the chances are higher that you will not feel as stressed as someone who is getting surprised at the twists and the turns of the place. A student who ends up coming out very successfully from a pressure-filled environment is likely to have more confidence to take on professional life. So the first class from law school, the 2-1, may just be the boost that the student needs to take on the very poor Nigerian job market. For example, you can see the statistics on the screen in terms of the outlook of Nigeria. A lot of graduates are out of jobs. Interestingly, it also happens in the legal profession. Like you may be aware, the well-paying jobs in and out of the legal profession are usually reserved for the first class and second class upper students. And with the rate of first class graduates we're having a lot of first class graduates from the law school, which is a good thing. There's stiffer competition because the first class graduates are there. They are there having to compete with the 2-1 students for job positions. Now, we are not trying to say that getting below a 2-1 at the law school is an economic death sentence. There are several high-flying lawyers who had very poor academic results. However, we usually advise that you do not join the category of those persons who would want to point to a Ganifa or a Himi or a Fashola there saying, oh, they did not make a first class, they did not make a 2-1, see how they turned out. Well, when you point to them like that, or when you know people who point to them like that, remind them to also point to their level of tenacity. It takes strong and exceptional tenacity to turn out very well when one does not have a good academic profile from an education institution. It's not a death sentence. If you know what to do better, especially if you realize late and you know what to do well, you can always make a good show. But if you have the opportunity, law school is still over a month away, and you have the opportunity. Everybody is coming to the law school. Law school is not a respecter of persons. Law school does not say, oh, because you made the first class from the uni, you have the chance to now make a first class here. Because you made a third class from uni, you cannot make a first class here. It's a level playing ground. Law school is no respecter of any person. So it'll be good to take that level of confidence with you. I'm promising you, it'll be good to take that level of confidence. You can make it, and that's why we are here, to give you insight and information into this, and that's the purpose of this course. Now, in closing, I would like to share my own. I know a lot of students talk about first class at law school 2-1. I would tell you up front, I did not make a first class at the law school. I made a 2-1 at the law school on Lagos campus, and that's why I emphasize that having a 2-1 is not not having a first class in the first place is not an economic death sentence, and also not having a 2-1 is not an economic death sentence in itself. If you can, please do all your best to have a good grade. But beyond the law school, one of the things we believe that makes this course exceptional, and which is why we want every student to take this course, is because we have discovered that law school is beyond law school. So I'll share my personal experience as to how I got the job at the law school. I got the law school opportunity to lecture at the law school virtually because of relationships I built while I was a law school student, and it took knowledge to know how to build relationships that later ended up being fruitful for me in terms of work. And I tell my people that every job opportunity I've had since I became a lawyer have literally come from networks and opportunities I've built over time, particularly at the law school. So while I was a law school student, during externship, I built a good rapport with my judge. It was not, in all fairness, it was not that intentional. My judge just liked me, felt I was very active, I was responsive during sessions, and when I was done with the extension program, she wrote a recommendation letter for me to the law school, and I was not aware of it, and packaged some money and gave to the law school. On the day we're rounding up at Lagos campus, we had a cocktail after the exam, and they were awarding prizes, and I was called in Lagos and was awarded the certificate of excellence by my judge. And it was 2 years afterwards, when I was interviewing for this position at the law school, the then DGG asked, what award did I get from the law school? And when I mentioned the award, when I mentioned the name of the judge, she was like, she has been looking for me, because the judge in question had never done that before, and since then had not done it again. And knowing the reputation of the judge, for you to have impressed her, then it means you were exceptional. That was essentially the end of my interview, in all fairness. That was the end of my interview session. So I've seen that. How did I get the job at the Lagos Business School? I got the job at the Lagos Business School based on a network I established while I was a student at the law school. So I think while a lot of people come to law school with the mindset of just first class 2-1, we have learned that and it's the same thing with the university, it's the same thing with law school. Many of these educational institutions are beyond just having the grade. Yes, we give you insight into the things we think you could employ or adapt to have good grades. But even beyond that, we give you the extra, which we'll call the icing on the cake, the things you can also do to build a good profile for yourself, even beyond law school, to increase your chances of getting good job offers and opportunities post law school or after you get called to the bar. In the next session, we'll be talking about academic goal setting and discipline. Academic goal setting, hope, fear, and discipline. How do you set your goals? Yes, everybody wants to make a first class. How do you break down that high, big picture into actionable steps, day-to-day steps, while as a law school student to be able to have very good outcome at the end of the day? I hope you would be part of it. I promise it's going to be an interesting one, and I hope you get to learn a thing or two that would help you in your law school journey. See you there.